Hey everyone, this is Chris. Welcome back to the channel, and this is your daily news. So we'll start with this. Read the headline. Gunlock says, listen to the bond market rather than the Fed on rates. And it's really funny because you're getting some hedge funds essentially betting against the Fed. I personally don't think that's a wise decision, but let's see what they have to say, and I'll also explain why I don't think it's essentially a wise decision, but everyone's got to do what they got to do. Prominent fixed income manager Jeffrey Gunlock said investors trying to figure out how the interest rate situation will play out should pay attention to the bond market rather than the Fed. Quote, my 40-year plus experience in financials strongly recommends that investors should look at what the market says over what the Fed says. And it's funny because, like, if you read the headlines from the Fed, you read right here, Fed's Bowman says more rate hikes needed to curb inflation. It's like, what? And then you hear more details. Quote, in recent months, we've seen a decline in some measures of inflation, but we have a lot more work to do. So I expect the FOMC will continue raising interest rates to tighten monetary policy, as we stated after our December meeting. So basically, and I'm laughing because it's so ridiculous. So basically, you have hedge funds saying, "Hey, don't listen to those people," and then you got the Fed say, "Hey, don't listen to those people." So you got to make a decision what you think makes sense. JP Morgan is trying to navigate this. I mean, usually the rule of thumb is don't fight the Fed, right? That literally the Fed is saying we're raising interest rates. But you know what? I get it. You know, no one can read the future 100%. So JP Morgan, in fact, is giving us some percentages of what they think will happen. Headline is JP Morgan's trading desk sees inflation data bolstering bear market rally. And basically, when the CPI data comes out, they say, okay, if CPI data is below 6.4%, which is a 20% probability of that happening, the S&P is going to go up 3%, right? If the CPI reading is between 6.4 to 6.6, so like really particular on this, which is a 65% probability of happening, right? So higher chance of happening. Then we see the S&P going up 1.5 to 2%. And then they're saying if the CPI, meaning inflation, is up at 6.6, which is a 50% probability, then we're going to see the market go down by 2.5 to 3%. So put this all together. Market could be up 3% or down 3%. And I just laugh. And you got to have a sense of humor about this stuff because it is just crazy how volatile and I would say unhealthy our market is. And sort of when you see these massive swings, I would say more bearish because of unhealthy. We know the Fed is raising rates. And yes, I do understand that there are many hedge funds out there betting that the Fed is, maybe not so serious about it, or they're betting that inflation is going to come down. And everyone's got to make their own, sort of risk ratio on that. What do you think makes sense for you? And as I always say with any of these things, there's always good advice, is just be diversified, right? Don't put all your eggs in one basket and have a realistic assessment of what the upsides and downsides could be. One thing that's interesting, though, is that when you look at how Goldman Sachs has responded to this kind of stuff, we talked about this before. I mean, their revenues are down like 40%. Essentially, during that crazy stimulus run that we've had, plus, the fall of the pandemic, had a, massive drop and then a crazy recovery. But then at the end of the day, the party is over because we were at quantitative easing. Now we're going to quantitative tightening, right, in terms of economic policy. And Goldman evidently is now looking at executive spending on private jets and parties and these kind of things, and starting to thinking about, okay, we got to tighten our belt. So Wall Street is sort of in retreat at the moment. No one's necessarily predicting crazy crash, except maybe like a Michael Burry kind of person. And also it just depends on how much companies earn. And when it comes to the reporting, we're going to have in the next couple of weeks, we'll have a better sense of sort of where we are and where we're going. So I gave you guys some probabilities and gave you guys a couple of opinions. General thumb, though, is don't fight the Fed. In other news, Microsoft is quite serious about this chat GPT thing, OpenAI, and they're talking about investing $10 billion in this thing. I just made a video about chat GPT. I've made a couple other videos related to it. We'll probably do more content about this because, perfectly frank, guys, this is the future. And which company is going to be the leader, remains to be seen. I will say what's very interesting about this, and this is something that I think we can all see it, is this sort of AI-driven conversation, search query is basically a direct attack on Google. When I was in college, and I'm sure you guys remember this stuff as well if you're old enough, when Gmail first came out, it was like a big deal. It was like, hey, do you got Gmail? Hey, do you got Gmail? And back then it was, by invite only. You had to have a friend who had it, who could connect you. And then it was the same kind of thing. And when suddenly Google started being used and people started saying, I Googled this, I Googled that, being Google a verb, and being Google's a part of our modern day life. And professors and stuff were always worried about it. But ultimately, we learned to live with it and to accept that that's the modern tools now. Open AI, which like I said, we'll make more videos about it, it is really a challenge to Google. And there was an article, I think I want to say a week or so ago, where Google was basically saying all hands on deck meeting. We got to code red kind of thing, and be wary of this sort of change. So, will Microsoft pass Google? Anything is possible in this world. I'm sure Apple and their Siri will get involved. I'm sure Amazon and their Alexa is interested. I haven't really used Alexa myself. Anyone has an opinion on that, I'd love to hear your thoughts. I can just tell you that I think Siri is behind Google in terms of, sort of the capabilities of the talking, voice assistant thing. But Microsoft will get involved with Bing. Bing has always been sort of the lagger in this field, but this is a wide open territory, this AI stuff, and I've said all along that AI is an automation is how I phrase it, but this side of stuff is the future. So we'll see if Terminator and Skynet will be coming for us soon. In the world of crypto, Coinbase is laying off 20% of their staff. Basically, it's just a big slowdown, right? And so one of the things that people have been debating is, with the fall of FTX, will Coinbase benefit? My general opinion on this stuff is I just don't know why you'd want to take a risk in crypto. And I understand there's a lot of crypto people out there that love this stuff. For me, it's just why take the risk. Though the Winklevoss twins, they're getting involved in Gemini, and it was really funny. A lot of celebrities and stuff like that, and we've talked about the essentially scammy YouTubers are pushing this stuff as well. Essentially, there's just a bunch of money, and people get caught up in the fervor and the parties. And if you look at like an old tweet of one of the Winklevoss twins, and if you guys don't know, they were part of the Mark Zuckerberg debacle of fighting over who created Facebook. I'm sure you guys know this stuff, but it was interesting because one of them, Tyler, he tweeted out. This was a couple years ago. This is a tweet from October 22nd, 2020. As people wake up to the fact that the US dollar is fast becoming toilet paper, they are also waking up to the fact that Bitcoin is their only savior. So, this kind of stuff is, you always wonder, do people really believe the words coming out of their mouth, or are they just, pumping up a bunch of nonsense? It's hard to say, right? But I'll just say that there was a lot of money involved, and people did make a lot of money in this stuff. But you have to know when suddenly, like, we're getting in a crazy land. Like when you're saying the dollar toilet paper, that's just crazy land. And I never understood this, to be perfectly frank. I was just like, what are we doing? Why are we buying these digital things? Why are we buying coins with dogs on them and stuff like that? And for some people who who rode the wave, you can do well, but you got to know when the party's over. In my opinion, the party is over. It's crazy. It's crazy times ahead. However, for those of you who are more bulls in this sort of field, there is still money flying around. So Binance evidently is going to be buying Voyager. However, which is interesting, there was also an article that came out that said maybe in the past Binance wasn't so forthcoming. That's a good word to say about their finances. So we'll see what ends up with this. The Voyager thing is kind of crazy because I guess Voyager has they're saying $1 billion in accounts, and Binance is paying $20 million to control said thing. But I don't know. It just seems like an overestimation of how much in accounts that Voyager has, because my understanding is if you have crypto on this stuff, you're just going to lose it all. So it also is an indication of how people are going to be paying pennies on the dollar for this kind of thing. So again, I remain bearish in this stuff, but just sharing you with guys some news. There was an article came out, and it's going to depend who you read. So if you read Fox News, they're going to tell you that Biden is the biggest criminal of all time. That's what they're going to say. I'll just give you my honest opinion of this. So I always have to state this clearly over and over again. I don't really care if it's Democrats or Republicans. If someone breaks the law, I'll tell you about it. It's not a big deal to me. Meaning that I'll report. It doesn't matter. Because I just believe in rule of law, and if they've committed a crime, they should pay the consequences. I think that's a fair thing to say. I read through this stuff, so evidently there's some classified documents that were found at the Penn Center. Actually, my University of Pennsylvania, they found a bunch of, I think it was they said 4 files. It was something of that nature. And, it wasn't supposed to be there. It's in an unsecured location, and we'll see if they broke the law. That's it. And I got no problem if they did. I mean, if they did, pay the consequences, right? So that's what I'm saying. And it was interesting because comparing this, say, to the Trump situation, because I said it depends. If you listen to Fox News, they'll say he's the biggest criminal of all time, and they should all go to prison, this kind of stuff. But the biggest difference here between the Trump situation and the Biden situation is that said documents are reported, right, classified, they're in the wrong location. Was there something legal happening? And, my understanding Biden and the team is like, hey, these are these things, take them back, do what you got to do and do whatever investigation. That's my understanding of the situation. So, we'll say 4 files. And if you want to correct me on that, please do. The difference with Trump and the thing is like he's taking in boxes, not just a few files, boxes of stuff to the golf course that he owns at Mar-a-Lago. So the scale is quite different. And the other big difference as well is like Trump is kind of fighting against trying to return said thing. So I don't see any indications that the Biden people are like fighting back against the Department of Justice or anything like that. So I think that's the difference. So, but if there's any wrongdoing, we'll talk about it. So I have no problem with that. Hope you guys understand my point of view on these things. Yeah, and if they did anything wrong, sure, they should pay the penalty. But it doesn't seem as big as a transgression as a Trump thing. Regarding the Rivian situation, it's interesting because you can see the headline here. Several top Rivian executives depart electric vehicle startup. It just sort of a reminder how, when you talking about companies, they're not always guaranteed to succeed. Rivian had the deal with before, I think they were perhaps lying to Amazon about their battery ranges, which matters quite a bit when you're like an Amazon delivery company and determining how far vehicles can go. But I guess more executives are leaving the company. So these are the people. It was Randy Frank, so he was in body engineering. Steve Goronsky, he was in parts purchasing. There was a couple other people. Patrick Hunt, so that was he was in strategy, and then their general counsel Neil Citron, so he was there for 4.5 years. So I think this matters for Rivian, of course. My understanding of this whole thing is that Rivian makes a pretty good truck. They got all great reviews, but making one or two good trucks doesn't mean you can produce them en masse. The other thing too is you have the issue is that will consumers be buying these things in an upcoming downtrend in the economy? Speaking of downtrends, Bed Bath & Beyond, more bad news keeps coming, layoffs, etc. And this is kind of crazy. I saw the stock. I think it's up, I don't know, I think it was like up 20-some% today and like 30% the other day. So this is sort of your short squeezy kind of things, and it'll probably last maybe a week and then be over. But just do know that at the end of the day, the financials look terrible on this thing, and just be aware of that. And then talking about terrible situations, Andrew Tate, I guess he tried to appeal to get out of detainment in Romania, but he's still there. You read the headline. Andrew Tate lost an appeal for his release in the sex trafficking case and will remain in Romanian jail through January. And occasionally when you ever talk about anything about Andrew Tate, you'll get these people who write in comments just like basically wrong info. I mean, like I remember there was some person like saying, "Oh, Andrew Tate's not arrested. You're just making stuff up, Chris." I'm just like, what are these people talking about? And that's the one thing I emphasize so much on this channel is I do my best just to present you facts, and I'll tell you when something's my opinion. But I think it's crazy if you live in this world that you're for some people they trust what they read, what faceless, nameless people say on Reddit, or trust what they read from say people in chat or people in comments that are like video game icons and fake names, essentially, like user video game names and like just make up stuff. So I don't ever just make up stuff, and it looks like Andrew Tate is still in custody. So just be aware in some kind of stories there's always people out there just making some random stuff up, and I just personally don't think that's cool. Not about making stuff up. Interesting as well as we're talking about Disney. So we know they changed CEOs, and essentially Disney has been struggling. I'm sure you guys know this. Like the movies haven't been that great lately. You're talking about, say, like the Marvel movies and stuff like that, and you could also complain about the recent Star Wars movies. And it's interesting if they can turn it around. So they have been talking about essentially a lot of people were complaining about the increase in prices over at Disney, and under the previous CEO, I think it was Chapek. I think that's right, Bob Chapek, because now it's Iger. But they were just basically trying to nickel and dime people, and charge you for everything, and also increase charges. And sort of the thing that Iger's trying to do is get more people back and giving more benefits and lowering prices. So it's a different model, right? Do you want to go with less people? Because the argument before was less people at the park, and the people would enjoy the park more but pay more, right? With this model, you guys bring more people into the park and be more crowded, but you're paying less. So it's two different models, and we'll see which one works out. That's in the parks. I didn't read anything about if they made any changes to their movies going forward and things of this nature. Also, too, I want to talk about the direction of the channel. I just wanted to mention this to you guys, says I will continue to do all kinds of stuff. One thing I just wanted to mention is that please do watch our vlogs. We would actually like to do that much more, just people don't really watch it that much. Also, too, I like to do a lot more educational stuff, be it like on Chat GPT or just general life philosophy kind of things. I do. And in fact, on YouTube, I've always done these kind of things, but they just haven't really been that popular. So I always do news as well, which I will continue to do because I think it's interesting. But the thing I want to mention is that I will always be a multi-topic channel because, preferably frank, it keeps me interested in it. If I, just to be honest with you guys, if you want to build a really big popular channel on YouTube, just tell everybody that they're Tesla and your Bitcoin is going to make you super rich and your Dogecoin is going to go awesome. And then when it goes down, then you just complain and share with everyone, oh, we're all losing money on Bitcoin and what's going to happen and Bitcoin this and Bitcoin that. I've never been that kind of person, just do one thing. But again, if you want to build a successful channel on YouTube, yes, that is one way to do it. I just prefer talking about lots of different types of topics. That's just sort of the kind of person that I am. The other thing is too is sometimes people ask me like, "Hey Chris, why don't you comment on said person or said person?" I do comment on other channels when I can, but not all the time, because preferably frank, I feel like as a someone on YouTube or whatever, you should always be offering your value and your opinions from yourself. Like, what do you have to offer? Not just talk about other people's content. I think that is a big distinction I've always tried to do on this channel quite a bit. Is have my own things that I talk about, and I have quite a bit to talk about. So hope you understand my point of view on that. I'm going to continue doing multiple types of things, and like I said, please watch our vlogs and other productivity videos because I think they're fun, and I would actually like to do a lot more of them. Just need you guys to watch it. So, but I will continue doing the news because I also find that fun as well. Thanks again for watching, everyone, and this is your daily news.